The mayor and city council are committed to providing transparency in government. That means you, the citizens, should be kept informed of events as they unfold. That's why the mayor regularly holds a coffee chat with the press to answer any questions posed. Here's a peek into one of those press talks.
Thank everyone for being here. We normally do those quarterly, these meetings quarterly, just an opportunity for discussion. Doesn't come in with any, we don't come in with any specific agenda of items that you'd like to discuss. Be happy to take on anything that you might want to talk about. So just an effort to make sure there's open and transparent government, and we've got all the issues out there. So that's the purpose of these meetings. Appreciate everyone coming. Hope the bakery goods are good. So what would you like to talk about? That whole project, even from its inception, where the community really got involved and organized, that's a great way of making decisions. You get buy-in early, and the council's support, and then a great staff who really made it happen. I mean, I think the implementation of that was really good, because that was a massive project to take on in a pretty short period of time. And we're still working through some issues, but generally I think it's gone in place very well, and we have gotten wonderful feedback.
Are you still getting that 75 to 80%?
Yeah, they really don't know how long that'll last, but they certainly are. We're certainly getting that right now. And a couple things as we kind of look ahead, once we feel like we've got this down pretty well. There's going to be a question about larger bins. We get that a lot, and we're exploring the purchase of a larger rollout for those heavy users, the heavy recyclers, and some way that we can work that deal out. So we're actively exploring that. The trucks can lift either the small ones or the large ones, so it's just a matter of having some of those in inventory, and those people who are really using it a lot, perhaps trading out their bins. So that's one issue we're looking at. And then currently it only applies to residential, and we need to expand that to multifamily apartments, condominiums, and then ultimately commercial. And it gets a little more complicated. The solutions there aren't rollout carts. They're really larger bins in the apartment or condominium area, but it's still a big part of the puzzle. And then the last piece, there's been some movement on, and I want to commend the county on this. We're taking substantially less out of the landfill because of the great participation from the citizens. And in most cities who consider recycling, one of the ways they're able to at least try to make it a little more cost effective is that they recognize they're going to save on the tipping fees, because there's less going into the landfill. You would think you pay less, and in fact there's an incentive there, a financial incentive to take less out of the landfill, which would kind of make sense. But the way it's worked in Fayetteville and Cumberland County for many years is that we just pay a per household tipping fee that is not based on volume. So every household in Cumberland County pays a fee to the landfill, and whether you are a heavy user or a light user, it goes down, it doesn't change. And we've asked the county, we asked them last year, and most recently we've had a little more success, to revisit that tipping fee and in some way to tie it into the volume, so that if we as a community, we're able to reduce what's going into the landfill and thereby extend the life of it, then some of that should go back to the citizens. And we're hopeful that that's going to happen, and I think that'll be kind of the icing on the cake of a successful program. Is it's working, you're doing a great job, and as a citizens, you're benefiting from that financially. So they have their water system. We'll be the provider, really. They'll be a PwC customer, and part of the new revenues that are generated as a result of this annexation will actually pay for that water line. So that's kind of the win for the Army. It's new state money, and that'll actually pay for that. It's about a $10 million project, but it will give them reliable and high quality water, which they do not have now. In fact, Ted Moan, who's on our council, is a civil service employee, and in the office he works in, they have to take bottled water in. They can't even drink water there. So we think that'll be a real enhancement. At a time, as Fort Bragg anticipating all the growth, anything we can do to address any infrastructure problems that might impede growth, we want to be all over that. And this is one. By us providing water, we will be able to take that issue off the table. We've looked extensively at parking. We think we've got about 3 years before it's a real crunch. Some people would argue at times we might already be there, but we think there's about a 3-year period before it's really going to be a problem. So we've designed incremental steps to open up some additional lots off the main streets. Those will no longer be free, they will be paid. and then to monitor the on-street parking. And when the on-street parking gets to be about 85% capacity, that's kind of a threshold. The professionals tell us that at 85%, anything below that, people will drive through and say, well, I can find a space, and they'll keep looking. Anything over 85%, they basically say, there's no parking here, and they go somewhere. So that 85% you really want to watch. So we'll monitor the on-street parking, and when that begins to be at about 85%, we're going to look to some kind of on-street fee. In other words, no longer additional 2-hour parking downtown on the streets. And the technology we're looking at now, you probably have seen these in other cities. Instead of an individual meter at every parking place, there might be 1 or 2 per block, and you just go and you pay. And the ones we're looking at, actually, you type in your license plate number, and it records it, so you don't have to go back to your car and put a sticker in or anything. And then when the person's coming along, they're just scanning what the technology is telling them, and they know that you can be there. Those are kind of the short-term steps as it relates to actual converting what has been free or 2-hour free parking as we become more urbanized, more used to a paid plan. And then we're still hopeful in working with the county on the long-term plan is to look for a more permanent parking solution. And there's serious discussion about that. Potentially several decks locations are being considered, and we met recently with the county to kind of revisit that idea. And again, we've got a little bit of time, but not a tremendous amount to have a more permanent solution to that.
Well, we actually put this program in place when I was elected. I'm committed, I guess after being in the media for 25 years, I just have such an appreciation for their role, in American society and in democracy. They're an important part of it, and it's been my experience that if you can have open dialogue, and that you head off a lot of problems. So I'm always anxious every quarter to sit with people and answer any question that they might have. I think it's part of having a transparent and open government, and deeply committed to that.